They're not worried about going back to Hollywood and having a producer call them and say, oh, we're sorry you lost a job. Whereas that's a very real fear for Christians and conservatives in Hollywood. That's one of the major reasons that Christians and conservatives are so rare in Hollywood, is that they are afraid of losing these jobs. And so I think that if anyone can be called brave for getting on a stage and really telling what they believe, it's someone like Chris Pratt. It's not someone like Meryl Streep.
You know, we see these award shows recently, and you've got all these celebrities that come up and they just bash the president, they bash the presidency, dropping F-bombs. And it was just so refreshing when I saw Chris Pratt, who I really like.
I do too.
And he talked about God, his faith, and how it's okay.
I liked him before, but now I love him.
Praying. Let's listen.
Number one, breathe. If you don't, you'll suffocate. Number two, you have a soul. Be careful with it. God is real. God loves you. Learn to pray. It's easy, and it's so good for your soul. People are going to tell you you're perfect just the way you are. You're not. You are imperfect. There is a powerful force that designed you that way. And if you're willing to accept that, you will have grace. And grace is a gift. And like the freedom that we enjoy in this country, that grace was paid for with somebody else's blood. Do not forget it. Number four, when giving a dog medicine, put the medicine in a little piece of hamburger, they won't even know they're eating medicine.
Very deep. Very, very deep. He wrapped it all up by saying, hey, nobody is perfect. People are going to tell you you're perfect just the way you are, but you're not. However, if you are willing to accept that, you have grace, and grace is a gift.
Awesome.
Yeah, wrapped in the fun of you.
Because what Chris Pratt did, he's actually risking consequences, because there is so much backlash, like you said, against not only political conservatives, but against Christianity, against preaching the gospel. I mean, there's really no two ways about it. What he did up there was he preached the gospel. He said someone else, Jesus Christ, died for your sins, and by the grace of God, you can be saved. He talked about having a soul. He talked about learning how to pray. I mean, like I said, my jaw just dropped when I saw this, and I guess it's a shocking question. I never thought I'd be asking this on my show, but is there hope for Hollywood?
You know, there very well may be. I mean, it all depends on people like Chris Pratt flocking to Hollywood and doing more, because what he said is such a valuable message in our society today, especially the part where he said, like, you are not perfect, because the message of our culture is today is this message of self-acceptance. Like, you need to accept your flaws, accept yourself the way you are. He says, no, you are not perfect. You do have flaws that you need to work on. And that's such a valuable message, because that's not what people are being told in our culture today.
When I first came, I had on the surface something that seemed to be like the perfect life, or a pretty good life.
Allison Mack, the story that involving her.
That's right. She has been charged with sex trafficking for her alleged role in that self-help group.
Take my hand.
She's the actress best known for playing a young Superman's best friend on Smallville.
I can explain later. I did what I had to do.
But this morning, Allison Mack is due in court, facing sex trafficking charges after being accused of involvement in helping to recruit women as alleged sex slaves for a secret sorority within an organization called NXIVM, based out of Albany, New York.
It breaks you down. It locks in a new identity, like a cult persona, is what I've been told. And then it makes you submissive and suggestible. So the end result is you have women agreeing to do things like to hurt themselves.
Keith Raniere, the leader of NXIVM, is facing charges including sex trafficking and forced labor conspiracy related to that secret sorority. Raniere and Mack seen together in this video.
So one would say authenticity is being as you are and expressing as you are.
I don't know why, that makes me want to cry. It's beautiful. What do you remember about her personality? Was she captivating? Oh, absolutely. It was energy
like that wanted to pull you in.
She pitched that Parker would be perfect to join a local organization she was involved in, connecting with women, developing leadership skills, going on retreats.
She never alluded to the fact that there was anything other than motivational.
But prosecutors believe there's much more to that so-called women's empowerment group, saying Mack, a Smallville actress, was second in command to Keith Raniere, the Superman in what many believe is a sex cult where women are brainwashed and branded in upstate New York.
And branded with the symbol incorporating Raniere's initials without any anesthesia.
It was a horror movie. It was the most inhumane, horrific way to treat anybody.
The 35-year-old actress was expressionless and silent leaving the latest court hearing Friday, connected to the sex trafficking charges she faces. Still, she can't help but wonder, what if?
At first, I'm like, I could never be a victim of this. There's no way. But knowing what I know now, who knows what could have happened? Who knows where I could be right now?
Parker says she does wonder to what extent Mack herself may have been brainwashed in all this.
I think there absolutely is hope for Hollywood, but it requires people like Pratt to speak out and speak out more, because his message is still really rare. Like you said, our jaws dropped when he says this sort of thing, and we want to live in a country where that's just the norm, where people that we look up to and people that we see on TV, people we see in movies are just good people, you know, and that's really not true right now. And you see that with the Me Too movement, absolutely. Like just in Hollywood, it's really being revealed as this den of depravity.
And like the freedom that we enjoy in this country, that grace was paid for with somebody else's blood. Do not forget it.
Those are just some of his 9 rules for life. You know, we're in commencement season.
Yeah.
That's stuff to live by right there.
So good.
And I love that people were cheering.
Yeah.
That's what we need to hear more of.
He went on to say, earn it. He said, reach out to someone in pain, be strong, be humble, and do not bully other people. Really, really great, touching speech.
So he's a guy that was on Parks and Recreation, was kind of fat, and they said he wanted to get a job on Moneyball. So they go, you're too fat to play this pitcher. So he lost about 40 pounds, became a workout maven. And he also took 5th place in the state wrestling championship. And his coach said, what do you want to do when you graduate? He says, I don't know, but I'm going to be famous. I'm going to make a blank ton of money. I think he's well on his way.
I think he earned it, right?
Along the way, he developed those 9 points. And they're good ones. Thank
what
you
a good
very much.
example.
Yeah, he's married to Anna Faris. They just went through a divorce, and it was amicable. They said that they were going to raise their son. His name's Jack, and he mentioned Jack in the speech and said, one day you're going to hear this son. Thanked his parents, said, we didn't have any money growing up, but we laughed a lot, and we still do.
That is a great example for future celebrities and their speeches.
Just super refreshing to hear someone, because typically when we hear, oh, we're going to talk about a celebrity accepting an award, it's like, oh, that means Meryl Streep or Robert De Niro got on the stage and cussed out Trump for 15 minutes. You know, and then the next day everyone's like, oh, they're so brave for getting on that stage and doing that. It's like, that's not brave. They're just stating what everyone already thinks, you know. And so people like Chris Pratt can fight against that. And I think there's an argument to be made that battle is being won right now.
It does mean elder. I'll take that. I'll own that. I think there's not enough people who own the idea that they're an elder, and we don't. You know, young people in this generation don't have many people to look up to because everyone's pretending that they're 22 years old when they're not. So I'm happily a 38-year-old Generation Award-winning man who's happy and eager to share everything I know about being a great, probably the greatest person. No, I don't know. I'm just having fun.
Hey, man, it's me, and I'm fine, kinda. I had a heart attack, a massive heart attack, and very nearly died the other night, Sunday night.
Healthcare for actor-director Kevin Smith prompted fellow actor Chris Pratt to offer him these well wishes on Twitter. Kevin, we don't know each other too good, but I have loved you since Clerks, and I'm praying for your cause because I believe in the healing power of prayer. Can you please pray with me, people? Well, apparently some on social media were just appalled by that, writing things like this. Great, now I won't enjoy your films as much knowing you're a Jesus nut. It's kind of incredible. You know, I mean, Twitter unfortunately gives people, all the way from the beginning, from the top down, a lot of desire, a lot of independence to say what they think, but some of it's just downright mean.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, Martha, this was a fascinating conversation to see play out on social media over the last couple days, and the different ways that people grieve, that people react, that people want to extend or express goodwill or good wishes. But I think we're forgetting that there are a lot of people in this country, when they say you're in my thoughts and prayers, they really mean it. You know, you look at somebody like Chris Pratt. Faith is a big part of his life. He's been vocal about it on social media before, in interviews. And Kevin Smith even agreed, hey, we shouldn't be fighting over this. I appreciate all the prayers. I want all the help and prayers that I can get. So I think we got to remember that when somebody says, I'm praying for you, they really may be doing it. And faith is an important part of their life. And that's their way of taking action.
And there's also just manners and respect for people. And, you know, just stay out of it. Just let him say what he wants to say with regard to this. And, you know, people don't need to have these snide, awful comments chiming in. It's just a bad environment in that regard.
God is real. God loves you. God wants the best for you. Believe that. I do. Learn to pray. It's easy and it's so good for your soul. There is a powerful force that designed you. And if you're willing to accept that, you will have grace. That grace was paid for with somebody else's blood. Do not forget it.
Not sure if you've ever seen this movie before. It's called Children of Men. It was about essentially a post-apocalyptic type of future where no person was able to have babies anymore. For some reason, everybody was sterile and couldn't have children. Believe it or not, this science fiction is now science fact as of today. DARPA has come out with a new technology that they're investing in called gene drive, and it actually can cause this type of scenario, believe it or not. This technology is based on CRISPR. CRISPR came out, I think, in 2012. This gene drive came out at the end of 2017. Basically, what's going on here is they can, I'll just explain it, by inserting the CRISPR technology into organisms, which can auto-edit genes, gene drives cut and paste the desired gene into each generation of offspring. So what they're doing is they're taking the CRISPR technology and they're putting it literally into the genes themselves so that it will auto-edit each generations of genes to where eventually the entire population has the desired genetic trait. So if they want mosquitoes to have all red eyes or whatever, they can basically introduce 2 mosquitoes or 3 mosquitoes with these red eyes and with this CRISPR technology, auto gene drives in them, and eventually the entire population of mosquitoes in the entire world will have red eyes after so many generations. So they could actually introduce this with other species. They could do it with humans and actually cause it to where they have low sperm count or inability to have children in some way, and introduce a few humans with this gene drive technology, CRISPR technology, and eventually the entire human population would not be able to have children anymore, and it would actually make what happened in the sci-fi movie, which, of course, when I saw this movie, I thought it seemed kind of crazy, like sort of a never happening scenario. Like, wow, this is kind of silly. Why all of a sudden would people not be able to have children? Well, I just answered that question for you. There's actually a technology to do it now.
Say you want to get rid of an invasive species, like get Asian carp out of the Great Lakes. All you have to do is release a gene drive that makes the fish produce only male offspring. In a few generations, there'll be no females left. No more carp. In theory, this means we could restore hundreds of native species that have been pushed to the brink. Okay, that's the good news. This is the bad news. Gene drives are so effective that even an accidental release could change an entire species, and often very quickly. Anthony James took good precautions. He bred his mosquitoes in a biocontainment lab, and he also used a species that's not native to the US, so that even if some did escape, they'd just die off. There'd be nothing for them to mate with. But it's also true that if a dozen Asian carp with the all-male gene drive accidentally got carried from the Great Lakes back to Asia, they could potentially wipe out the native Asian carp population. And that's not so unlikely, given how connected our world is. In fact, it's why we have an invasive species problem. And that's fish. Things like mosquitoes and fruit flies, there's literally no way to contain them. They cross borders and oceans all the time. Okay, the other piece of bad news is that a gene drive might not stay confined to what we call the target species. That's because of gene flow, which is basically a fancy way of saying that neighboring species sometimes interbreed. If that happens, it's possible a gene drive could cross over, like Asian carp could infect some other kind of carp. That's not so bad if your drive just promotes a trait, like eye color. In fact, there's a decent chance that we'll see a wave of very weird fruit flies in the near future. But it could be a disaster if your drive is designed to eliminate the species entirely. The last worrisome thing is that the technology to do this, to genetically engineer an organism and include a gene drive, is something that basically any lab in the world can do. An undergraduate can do it. A talented high schooler with some equipment can do it.
Yeah, so this is the crazy stuff that DARPA's working on, other than artificial intelligence and robots. So they have robots with artificial intelligence, and when we're talking about artificial intelligence, we're not talking about some pre-programmed software that knows your moves in chess and figures them out. They've actually created robots that self-learn, that are able to actually beat masters at games that are not games you can actually figure out the next move. They're sort of games you have to think of what's going on the fly and sort of feel it out. There's a certain Chinese game like that, I can't remember what it was called, but there's a master of this game who played one of these AIs and lost. And he had been like a 10-time world champion, and he lost. And it was a game that you can't anticipate necessarily your opponent's moves. And this AI literally played himself 10 million times to self-learn how to beat itself, and then played the Grand Master and defeated him pretty easily. So this is what we're talking about here. We have AI, robots that can self-learn and teach themselves anything, even create a new language. And we have technology to where they could actually edit genes and put this little auto gene drive technology into the gene itself and change the human population. Is there any people that want to depopulate the world? Georgia Guidestones ring a bell there. Could there be? I mean, if you think about it, this is just really crazy. I mean, you have Elon Musk, who is into creating robots and investing in it, telling you that we should not have robots that can that are in the military. That they shouldn't have robots that are self-learning AI, because they could actually eventually become aware in a sense and decide not to do what you want. They could even, I mean, it sounds crazy, but I mean, just think about all this technology. Just to think about how it could snowball on itself. I mean, we have the loss of privacy now with all this surveillance, essentially, sort of in 1984. We have AI being used even on YouTube, by the way. I'm not sure if you know that. They actually have a black box AI that they actually put a lot of data through to decide what videos to show to you. So they actually have AI being implemented on YouTube to decide what videos to show you. Self-learning AI. All right. So then you have, I mean, DARPA's investing in all these things. You don't think this could become sort of an apocalyptic situation? AI that self-learning robots. You got like the Terminator sci-fi fantasy coming to life. You have this Children of Men fantasy. It's not really fantasy. It's sort of a scary scenario coming to life where basically no one could have children potentially in the future, or maybe they'll make it so they find a certain gene that's sort of attributed to, you know, resisting authority, and decide, let's just snip that little gene, and we just want docile little people that do what we want. Right? So we alter that gene, and we put in this gene drive CRISPR auto technology into a couple people, stick them out in the population. 3-4 generations later, all humans are docile. They don't resist authority. I'm serious. This is the kind of stuff we're talking about. This is not even science fiction anymore. I mean, you can see how this could be very ominous for the future. You have to ask yourself, what the heck is going to happen, right? You have nukes, you have AI, you have this CRISPR technology. Something is going to go wrong. Something is going to go very wrong in the next 50 years, just thinking about all this. And look at the type of people that run the world. You have crazy people running the world. So crazy people with this kind of technology, what do you think is going to happen? Of course, you could obviously think of some positive aspects to this technology. We can modify mosquitoes so they can't carry malaria anymore. Okay, well, that's maybe what it's going to start out as. They're going to use this technology to get rid of diseases, cancers, and things like that. But eventually, you're going to get some crazy person that has control of this technology, and they're going to introduce something far worse into society, and the sky's the limit with this stuff, man. The sky's the limit. I don't know why anybody else has done videos on this, really. I haven't seen anybody talk about this. This is very crazy to me that I'm one of the first ones. I mean, this guy, the Outer Light's talking about it. That's why I watch his channel sometimes. He comes out with some really strange content that a lot of people are missing. And he happens to be, I think, from New Zealand or Australia. So maybe that's why he also had sort of a leg up on this. DARPA was doing this over in New Zealand. People are talking about what this could be used for in a positive manner, but I mean, seriously, we're talking about DARPA using it. DARPA. I wonder what they could use it for. I don't know. Let's see here. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. What are they defending by modifying the genes of animals or humans or something? What are they modifying? That's a good question to ask, isn't it? I think it is. I just thought of something very crazy. Could it be possible that they've already used this technology? Or maybe it's just they've used other things to sort of mind control and change people in society? And this would be sort of like the ultimate weapon they could use to control populations, is they could cut out genes they don't like, genes that might be more tied to being resistive or whatever, control populations that way. It's an interesting question. And you have to ask yourself what they will do even farther on. Will they be adding genes? Will they be adding attributes? Will they be making hybrids? This is crazy stuff, but this is actually becoming science now. It's no longer science fiction.